Hello.
All right, here we go.
Hey guys.
What's up, guys?
Welcome
Another
to the internet.
QSC Tech Talk. Rock and roll.
Thanks
Yeah.
for letting me join again, guys. I appreciate it.
Oh,
Yeah.
thanks for being here. We are excited. Yeah. So let's do it. We're live. Let's talk about some stuff. I'll go ahead and quickly introduce us. Welcome everyone who's on the stream right now. My name is Jason Fernandez. I am the live sound training manager here at QSA. Wow. Joining me, as always, is Golden Preciado. She's a professional live and recording sound engineer, as well as our House of Worship specialist here at QSC. And joining us again is John Graves. John is the product manager for the TouchMix series of digital mixers. He's also one of the lead developers behind that series of consoles. So we're super excited to have you join us here, John. We got a pretty exciting conversation.
Thanks, man.
I'm excited about. Just real quick, we did have you on last week. For anybody who might have missed that one, or just kind of wants to recap, John is I would call him a veteran live sound and recording mix engineer.
That's a nice way of saying it.
He's got quite the tenure of front of house, large scale, big production, touring, front of house mixing, as well as some pretty notable recording sessions. He also is involved in a lot of really cool, fun projects here at QSC, including building I would put it, the world's largest Atmos system for a couple of Disney movie premieres that happened within the last couple of years. So guy can do it all.
I do a bunch.
Very
Yes.
cool.
Pretty much. So that is John. And like I said, we're super excited to have you here. The topic today is a really cool conversation that I wanted to have with you in particular. I wanted to kind of talk about and break down a specific feature on the TouchMix, and that would be the presets. In my opinion, the presets are one of the key golden features of that series of mixers for many reasons. And to sort of kind of outline that and demonstrate it, I wanted to unpack that a little bit. I wanted to get into the philosophy behind the presets and the actual kind of the process in which we went through to create them specifically. Just kind of tells a really, really great story about the presets themselves and gives a really good sense of why they're so useful and how usable they actually are in the real world.
Well, how interesting. You should pick a subject that I'm quite so passionate about and have lots to say about. So
fantastic.
I'm a passionate end user of presets.
Yes, I know Golden's got some
many stories to tell about
pretty
presets.
rad stories using the presets as well. So this is going to be fun. Let's just go ahead and start it out. I'll just ask, like I already established, what the philosophy, kind of what was behind the presets, what was kind of the mentality, and what was the goal that you were trying to achieve behind the presets when you decided that you wanted to add presets to these concepts.
All right, so since I'm not really good at this, I'll try not to get too wordy on this, but we talked a little bit last week about the development of the TouchMix and what our desires were, and the idea was we wanted to make a really accessible digital mixer, and we wanted to make it intuitive, and we wanted to make it powerful with grown-up features, right? All the big boy features, EQs and compressions and gates, so that you could get a really great result with this small accessible mixer. So that was last week we talked about that, and that was what we were trying to do.
Yes.
While we were discussing, and this was all just a pipe dream at the time, there was 6 or 7 guys who were the team that really came up with the ideas for all the TouchMix stuff. And we were all sitting around in a room and we're discussing what we think we want it to be and the rough 30,000 foot view of what the product was going to be. I at some point had said, I've been doing this for a long time, and I bet you I could probably come up with, like, in this mixer, I could come up with presets, actual presets that really worked, something that nobody, I don't want to be disparaging, but something I don't think anybody ever really did with presets to from the standpoint of what we were thinking. So we wanted to create live presets that would really work, that were put together by professionals, people who really had experience at this. And we wanted to make them so that they would work in your environment, not some other environment. So I had said that during the discussion originally, and everybody went, yeah, it's great. And we moved on, and months later, the product comes to fruition, and we're working on the product, and we have the first working prototypes, and everything is cool. And somebody says to me, all right, John, so when do we want to start the presets? And I was like, ooh. Oh, so like we're really doing that. And everybody said, yeah, we think that in this brand new class of product, this powerful mixer in a small accessible package, aimed at customers all the way from the beginners to experienced people, we think this preset thing would really be great if you could do what you said you did. Can you do what you said you could do? And I was like, wow.
Can you deliver?
So yeah, I said, all right. And that was the beginning of presets. That was the reason for presets. I felt like I could probably do it when we first started. And then when it was posed to me, let's begin, I thought really long and hard and said, yeah, we can do this. We can actually do this. But we discovered as we entered into presets, why not everybody does that. Because at the end of the day, it's expensive, meaning it took a lot of time and a bunch of manpower and a bunch of stuff to do. If you're going to do it seriously, and much to QSC's credit, they said, you know, this is what we're going to do, and this is what we're going to spend, and whatever it takes to make it happen. So that's the beginnings of long-windedness. That's the beginning.
No, that was great.
It was perfect.
Why we did presets and our approach. So if you asked a question, ask
so
away.
And I do want to get into this kind of leads us directly into this kind of the story of the process that it took to get these. But before we get there, just to kind of reinforce some of your points a little bit, you know, up until this point, you know, many presets are not a new concept. There are many products that offer presets. They've sort of developed a stigma over the years, however.
That's right.
Just
like everybody has them and nobody uses them.
Yeah, you don't use them. Presets, you can't. Yeah, they're there. You can't use that.
Well, many of them are presets that are great for studio.
Sure. Yeah.
That don't necessarily work in a live sound
environment. They don't translate to a live situation. Exactly. Right. Yeah, they might work fine in a studio. Some of them not even that, but right. Yeah. We wanted to create something that was usable in the real world in a live scenario, and it would give end users the opportunity to get a really good sound, a really good mix going, with a couple pushes of a button, and that's definitely what we accomplished. So what did that take? Walk us through the process and kind of what it really took to get through this and create these presets and get them to where they are.
So great conversation here. So as I said, I'm pretty passionate about this, but I will tell you where we started. And this is a recurring theme, I realize, through a number of functions. If we continue to go through TouchMix stuff, I think I'm going to say this at the beginning. There's often we approach a feature that we wanted to put in, and the way that I approached it was, I know that I would have thought as an engineer, that's all crap, I'm not using it. I'm better than anybody that like anybody that would create this. Like, I know what it feels like on the other side, right? As a user, as a live sound guy. So I approached all these things like, all right, I know that if I said, this is a preset, that my first inclination would be like, I'm smarter than you, never mind. So it was really important to me to take this as seriously as we could and make something happen so that I could stand behind it and say, tell any live guy, from the guy who's touring with the biggest bands to the every night guy doing a gig, like, if you push this button and load this preset, you may be a big professional and you may want to fine tune it, but the chances are I'm pretty close to where you're going to kind of go anyway. Yeah. And if you're a novice, it's doing stuff that you might not have even thought of.
Exactly.
And I wanted to be able to make it work in all the environments. So let me just back up a little. So we started making presets on the TouchMix 8 and 16. The 30 didn't even exist. The the TouchMix 16 was not going on tour and mixing front of house in an arena. Like, let's just be clear about that. So let's think about like where, like if you're going to make presets, where are they going to be valuable? So I looked in all the way from coffee house size all the way up to a big club, right? Because that's where you're gonna go.
Right. Absolutely.
Right.
So in that case, John, what do you have to do to make this work? And so I need at least 3 different PAs.
Yeah.
I need a room that is the size of a big club that can be pared down to a coffee shop style acoustics.
Mm-hmm.
I need 3 different PAs, and I need to be able to go through all this stuff. So that was really what we did, and that and that's how we started, and that's ultimately how we were able to create stuff that really works. From the standpoint of like the club, you know, when you're worrying about getting the stuff for a big club, you also had to have monitors running because monitors are part of that. Mm-hmm. So you got to make sure that your preset, if it's going through the mains and it sounds great, that's cool. But if it's going through the monitors, it can't have a bunch of stuff in there that's going to set the monitors off.
Right.
On top of that, if you're the guy using that preset in a coffee shop,
right,
you can't have screwed up the EQ of it so it doesn't sound good there. So this was a lot of work.
It's a big task.
Very rewarding. And I will be the evangelist for this forever. Like everybody that I ever met and ever know and talk to about mixers, guys that I used to work with to people that I just meet today. I think we created something that is unique in the industry, the most usable presets, we changed the workflow of what people can do. Yeah. Because when you load a preset, it labels the channel for you, it brings up a starting point, and it gives you all the options to do that in a second. You can literally put, like when we started demoing touch mixes in the very early days, I would go out and we'd have a band, and I would say, all right, well, here's the band. Everything's like this. And I would load presets and push up the faders and go, look at that. There's a drum sound.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive, right? So that's really what we wanted to do. So I think that I think there's probably a video someplace, Jason, that we can send.
There actually is 2, and I will post a link to those. We put together a couple of really, really cool videos that sort of outline the entire creation process that we check. I'll grab those links right now. But just to kind of quickly summarize, it's extensive. It was a series of testing and trial and error, which I think in and of itself is unique to our process. I don't think many people that create presets do really much testing, especially not trial and error. They just kind of crunch some numbers and create an algorithm and let it be what it is. But we took a different approach here. And let me grab this link real quick.
While you're doing that, I will say the other thing that was important to this, Jason, was to make presets and make a preset list that wasn't so long that it was intimidating. Because if you have a preset list that's 500 presets and you open it up, my feeling would be like, look, I'm just galvanized. I don't know which one to pick. I don't know what it is. So one of the things that we did with presets was we changed PAs. I went through each PA, right? Yep. We changed microphones. We started with a microphone. By the way, I will say this now, it's important. Every preset, for the most part, started with an SM57. I'm not getting paid for that. I'm just
it's an industry standard mic.
It is an industry standard dynamic microphone, and everything starts there, including kick drums and acoustic guitars and all that stuff. And then we would change microphones from there. So if you're a person who's got a touch mix and you have this microphone or that microphone and you try one of these presets, the chances are it's still going to work because we actually did the work on that. So it's really important. The other part of this that's really cool about our presets, and maybe even if you have a mixer and you've never looked, when you go to call up a preset, there is a box up on the top right corner that you can click on that tells you how we created the preset. So that it'll say like large dynamic cardioid microphone, close to the drum head or something. So you're giving you, like, none of this is magic that we're trying to hide from anybody, or we're not trying to tell anybody that we're doing something. Like, this is how we did it. These are the ways that we did it, and we think this is going to work. So
Right.
the presets are built to be very versatile. They work. Sometimes they work better than others. That's just the nature of the beast. And one of the things that I remember talking to one of my mixer friends on the onset of this, and I was talking about doing this, and he said, "Man, what are you doing? Like, you're going to try and put me out of work?" And I said, he says, "You're giving away all the secrets." I said, "No, not really. Because at the end of the day, if you're going to be true and honest about this, which we are, this is 80-20. 80% of the time, the preset will help you to some extent, maybe completely, maybe just really kind of get you closer and get you labeled.
Get a starting point.
20% of the time, you're hosed. 20% of the time, the instrument, the PA, the room, it's a disaster, right?
Yeah. So
we don't hold any silly idea about it, but we really believe strongly in this.
Absolutely.
So one thing I want to talk about, because I'm running sound 6 days a week, sometimes for 2 events in a day. I rely on these presets not only for speed and clarity of sound, they sound great, but also for system stability. One of the events that I was running was a corporate event, and kid you not, all 3 of these ladies got up with lapels. Now I have to be honest, lapels scare me. They are just feedback disasters waiting to happen. And at the time I did this corporate event, I hadn't spent too much time using presets because I'm thinking I know how to set my own stuff.
Right. There you go.
But knowing that I had these 3 lapels from these ladies that would refuse to use anything else, I dug out the lapel preset. And I looked at it and I said, man, this is strange. But I brought up all 3 mics at once, just like they wanted. And I could not believe the amount of gain I got before feedback. It was epic. Mm-hmm. And that situation made me a firm believer in these presets, that they were created not only for excellent sound, but system stability. And another situation I run into often when I'm running sound at Campus Jacks is guests will invite, like the players will invite guests up on stage. Like,
all the
see them
time
in the crowd and they invite them up. I'm like, oh no. So I have to quick run up on stage, set up a mic. And when I get back to the mixer, the first thing I do is throw in a preset. And we had a sax player that got invited up last minute. I put up 57 in 30 seconds, went back to the mixer. In 5, I had a preset up. I pushed it out in the mains and I pushed it up in the monitor for him, and it sounded amazing. I didn't have to.
No time at all.
No time at all.
Yeah.
And
it worked.
It was seamless. Nobody knew what was going on in order to make that happen, but it sounded excellent. So that's how as a end user, I use presets. And in my world, we have to work super fast and quick. Yeah. It's not like a large concert venue where we have a couple of hours to dial in sounds. A lot of times my bands show up with no sound check whatsoever. We do a line check, and I start the entire session with presets, and I will make my adjustments after they get going. But that downbeat is crucial, and presets allow me to have an excellent
with the presets start. You have something that works, and that's something I think a point that you've made. You've pretty hammered home with that. Yeah. That story there is not only do the presets sound good on each instrument individually, but they sound good together. They actually create a mix, a cohesive mix that is stable, and everything kind of fits and has its own place.
Yeah.
Jason, that's part of it is because when we created the presets, we had somebody that had mixed before, spinning knobs. And when you are getting the sound of a rack tom, and you're getting a sound of a rack tom in the middle of a drum kit, there's something that goes on in your head saying, I need to, this is what the drum sounds like. This is what makes sense. And you make space for everything in between because, as you put it all together, it becomes a cohesive instrument, right?
Yep.
Yes.
So drums are a good example of that. But you don't necessarily get the biggest, giant, most fat rack tom sound you can get all by itself, because when you put that with something else, all of a sudden things start to stack up on each other.
Right.
So every preset that was made is made in the context of a mix, of putting it in a mix. It sounds good by itself. It has to sound good by itself. But and it has to sound good by itself. It has to be stable in a PA.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? So that's usable. And then it has to work within the confines of a real mix. And I think all of these things are unique to our concept of presets. I mean, QSC makes a lot of products, touch mixes, K-series, other things like that, where we really try. I mean, at the end of the day, results is what we're trying to get, right? We are trying to get our customers to get the best results they can possibly get, right? And in the interim, you affect other people who aren't necessarily, like for instance, if I go do a gig, if I take a TouchMix 30, I am so lazy because I drop presets in that when I have to start on a console that's from scratch, I'm like, oh, this is going to take me forever, because you can't. There is a difference in your mindset, and anybody that's watching us that's a mixer will know this. So if I put a preset in and push the fader up, I am comfortable. Well, if you're comfortable with presets, I'm comfortable with pushing that up and then spinning some knobs.
Exactly.
Not very often do I walk up to a regular console that doesn't have presets. Do I spin the EQ and then push the fader up? That's not really what your workflow is. Your workflow is I walk up, I set my gain, then I push my fader up, and then I start to EQ it. That's
and you start listening to it and making your adjustments.
So my point is, now when I go do a mix on a mixer like that, I'm like, damn, this takes me forever. And on a touch mix, if I drop in all the presets, like I can just fine tune it, and it takes a fraction of the time. But you have to believe in them, and you have to believe us. And I tell everybody that I can talk to, everybody that listens, if you're a mixer,
just try.
I promise, give this a try.
Give it a try. And then we've gotten. That's true. I mean, you do kind of have to take that leap of faith, like, and trust it.
If you're a good engineer, you're going to go no.
Exactly.
And really quickly, I want to talk about it from the engineer who has very little or no experience, because I run into this as a sound person at my church. I have volunteers that work for me on a regular basis, and they don't know anything about audio engineering, but they want to serve. They want to be involved somehow. And honestly, there's so much going on in a house of worship that I need helpers. I need people to do this for me. So one of the first things I teach them as they're learning the mixer is how to enter in a preset. Now, if I jumped to parameters and showed them all the parameters, they'd be like, what is this? And what do I do with it? Because they haven't learned yet. But by teaching them how to enter in the preset, they know how to do that. That's as easy as going through a menu and choosing it. They get that preset in there, bring up the fader, and it sounds great. 80% of the way there. And it's just gold especially for where I work in the house of worship sector, and getting volunteer sound people and ministry leaders able to use their consoles, their touch mixes right away without knowing.
That's a big thing, in that scenario specifically, where you are dealing with volunteers like that. It's not even like a novice or an amateur mixer. It's somebody who has no background in sound whatsoever, or might not even be a musician of any kind. They just want to help. And so, what do you do? And teaching somebody all about EQ and compression and gain and things like that in a short amount of time is nearly impossible. But if you got a preset that works, you say, okay, you do this, here you go, load it up, and you've got a good sound. And then from there, like you were saying, showing them behind the hood or showing them the EQ curve would be Greek to them at first. But you could then take a look at what happened, what the preset is doing to the channel, and reverse engineer that and use that as a teaching tool. How, like you said yourself, John, we give you the answer. We're not hiding anything. When you pull up the preset, you can see everything that we do, and we even give you a little button that explains how we did it. So
Nicholas is asking a question. He wants to know, are the presets specifically EQ, or do they have effects woven into? And I'm using these every day, so I'm just going to answer that. The presets, all of them have EQ. Some of them add compression and gates, but the preset info window up in the upper right will tell you which ones have compression or gates added to it. And presets for effects are not added in that because the TouchMix also has a fancy effects wizard, which we're going to talk about in another
Yes, we
tech
will.
talk, where you can choose the appropriate effect for that instrument or voice. And if you don't know anything about effects, the effects wizard will guide you through that and let you choose the right effect.
Wow,
but
what
in
a
answer
smart
to your
thing.
question, Nicholas, it's EQ always, and the other parameters are listed in the upper right information window of that preset.
That information is actually also baked into the preset name. If there's a preset title that ends with comp or gate, that indicates that there's a compressor and a gate setting on that as well as the EQ. So yeah, you get
exactly.
across the board.
Because we've made maybe the same EQ and put a basic gate on it to help you out, and then the same EQ with no gate on. In certain cases we've done that with compression and stuff, and we've tried to add a reasonable gate or compression setting, not something extreme, and we've tried to give you to give you a shot at it. Doing that was a little bit much, but I felt like it was valuable, especially when we give you the choice to go, no, they don't know what they're talking about, and use it without.
Yeah.
So.
And kind of like you were saying, the settings on those are relatively conservative.
Yeah.
So it's and again, that's a really great way to kind of learn those parameters as well, to kind of see what it looks like when you recall the preset, listen to what it sounds like, and then make some adjustments here and there based on that.
So you have a couple of shots of like where we created some of these, just so we can.
Oh yeah.
So that we can actually say, no, we weren't kidding. We actually were in rooms and did this.
Yeah. Yeah. We were in rooms with reflective surfaces.
Oh, well, that's me in the studio.
Yeah.
There's John.
That's not
clearly not behind the TouchMix.
That console will do what I tell it right now.
That's just a promo shot for me there, right?
Yeah.
Do we have the picture of one of the rooms that it was done in? The thing I love about those pictures is it's actual room that you would do.
Yeah, we picked
up a couple of those. We got a really cool one of the dual drum sets set up in that room.
That's an important. By the way, that's an important. Here's
we go.
We're doing a Bonda band right here.
Bonda.
Yeah.
So, which by the way sounds weird, but not like. Look, we covered a lot of ground, right? Like we tried. Like there is a there's a preset in TouchMix for accordion, and there's Bonda accordion, right?
Yep.
I mean, like we looked at the use cases and what people will do. So we did do some specialized stuff, but to that point, like you were saying, there's a picture somewhere of us doing the drums. I had 2 different drum kits. I had 6 or 7 snare drums, 2 different drum kits. There's us doing harmonica. Yeah. So there you go.
There it is, the double drum kits.
So that room is about the size of a club, right? When you back up where you can't see where the picture was from behind where the picture was. And we did double kits because I did different PAs, different microphones, and different drones. But then we went to a different drum kit, and we even did, there's somewhere, probably not in this picture, but there's a jazz kit, a little cocktail kit.
Oh, cool. Yep.
For the jazz drum sounds.
Yeah.
So, and yet with all of this diversity, we still managed to put a sorting method together when you go to presets that it doesn't galvanize you as you look at it.
Yeah.
So, here's us in Nashville doing, man, this acoustic guitar stuff was amazing. We had some great players with big time guitars, different guitars, Martins and Taylors and stuff. And we went to Nashville to get the real players to play the real stuff to get great samples for us to EQ.
So real quick, I just want to comment on Michael Lowe's comment.
Yeah,
he was
I wanted to shout
looking
that out too.
for a new mixer during COVID. He didn't like the one he had. So he got a TouchMix 30. He says, the more I looked what was out there, it became obvious that I needed a TouchMix 30. I'm a drummer, by the way. Thank you
Me
for
too.
presets that work. So that is the truth. Presets that work.
Yay, mixing drummers.
Yay, mixing drummers.
Yeah, I knew you were going to be all over that, Jason. Jason's a drummer.
Yeah, I am.
I did
Michael.
show drummers a lot of love on this mixer though.
You did. Yeah, the drum presets are killer.
And when we get to Wizards,
when
we get to Wizards, the drum effects presets are pretty badass. So yeah.
Pretty awesome. And just the functionality, you know, using it, like mixing while playing drums is surprisingly easy.
Yeah.
With some of the cool tools and things you have on here. But we'll talk about that another time.
All right.
We are just past a half hour here, so I think we're gonna wrap things up. But this has been an awesome conversation. One couple of things that I did want to kind of touch on real quick though, aside from just the presets themselves and how good they sound, some of the functionality that was created around them. In particular, you already mentioned sort of the naming, the naming concept and the info button on them, but the omit buttons are extraordinarily helpful in certain scenarios.
That's right. So you can essentially drop a preset in and leave the name and do all that stuff, and then you can hit different levels of omit and just change the EQ, change the level. Like you can do all different things. So the cool thing is if you omit the level and omit the name, you can literally during the course of a show go through two or three different EQs.
And it won't change your monitor mix or anything.
Change out your EQ settings and it leaves everything else alone. It's pretty cool.
Exactly.
So
good point on that.
Awesome. Well, thank you, John, again for joining us here today and giving us some awesome insight into the presets and the creation and the philosophy behind them and all that good stuff.
Well, I appreciate it. I'm passionate.
Yeah.
You are, yes.
Me
too.
That's
why I wanted to have you on.
As the end user and mixer, I am passionate about it. And you know what, you guys, these presets, if you have a TouchMix 30, I would encourage you to study them and learn from them. I find myself, you know, as I'm hired for different events, working on all different consoles for various venues for different events. I have to work on what I'm given. And I have these presets in my mind. I have them memorized.
You're welcome.
So I have a starting place wherever I go. So study and learn for them. Our group of engineers and John, they've had 40 years of experience live sound mixing. So you can't get better presets, live presets, than what QSC has created for these touch mixes. Yep.
Absolutely.
Before we go, I wanted to let you know about a couple helpful Facebook groups that we have. We have the QSC TouchMix group. So if you own a TouchMix or are interested in owning a TouchMix, or even if you don't own one, but you find yourself mixing on one, this is an informative group about everything TouchMix. The other Facebook group we have is hosted by QSC and myself. It's called Church Sound Training. This group was actually created for church sound people and their volunteers, but the audio concepts that are taught here are universal and applicable across the board, because adding to your audio knowledge and understanding helps you to operate your audio equipment with better skill and precision. Oh, one more thing. On December 4th, I'll be presenting at a virtual conference organized by soundgirls.org. And I'll be teaching broadcast mixing for live streaming. So you won't want to miss that one. Super relevant for today since there are so many virtual streaming platforms and shows going on. My presentation is December 4th at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And we will put that one in the comments as well.
Yeah, check that out. That's a good topic.
Yeah. And we just released our House of Worship training platform. So we are going to add the link in the comments for that. And it's a training that's perfect for volunteers. And you're going to learn everything from rolling a cable to the live mixing experience, setting monitors, everything you need to know about mixing in the House of Worship, venue. And there is you'll get your certification. It is in a VIX accredited class. So that's super awesome.
That's cool.
I've had an awesome time today, you
Me
guys.
too. This is
I
great.
love talking about presets. I'm passionate about it because I watch it work on a daily basis in my work, and it makes my life easy. So, yeah. Thank you, John, for putting those together.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Hey,
It's,
thanks for
awesome.
having me, guys. I appreciate it.
yes.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Golden Preciado, along here with Jason Fernandez and John Graves. And from all of us here at QSC, strive for excellence, never stop learning, and be the best that you can be. And we'll see you on the